Formidable broadcaster and defender of the English language, John Humphreys is on his way back to school.
I am conducting an English language class, and I've never done it.
He's agreed to take part in our teaching challenge.
Okay, Fiona. Thank you. I need it. Bye. I have views, as you know, about some teaching methods, particularly as far as English is concerned. But I suppose one of the weaknesses of the old system of education, and there was a lot right with it as well as things wrong with it, was that you were told, you were taught, and the desks were in rows, and the teacher stood at a blackboard, and that was that, man. You sat there, and you kept your mouth shut unless you were asked to say something, which was rare. But by and large, you sat and you listened. That was my education.
But his destination today couldn't be more different from his own education. This is top set Year 11 at Eastleigh Community School in London's East End.
I hope they aren't too horrible to me, really.
Normally they are taught English by The Guardian's London Secondary Teacher of the Year, Phil Beadle.
Please, looking this way, please. But it's all very well and good for senior broadcasters to start sentences with conjunctions, but not for us.
I've been teaching them for a year and a term, and they are passionate and spirited human beings with a love of literature and language.
When you were 9 years of age, somebody in this country died. Who am I talking about?
I just hope that they're going to be interested and we have a reasonable exchange and both learn a teeny weeny bit from each other.
I don't think TT's spoken yet, have you?
If I remember right, I think it was a Sunday.
TT will impress with her maturity and her depth of knowledge.
Raphael, right at the back.
Regardless of race, religion or your status, everyone...
The most articulate members of the class is Raphael, who has occasionally struggled to connect with other subjects. His speaking and listening abilities are really quite special, and he has a quite profound intellect.
More racist words.
Abigail Lamine is really quite a spectacular human being in all ways. I could go on. They all have something absolutely unique about them.
John Humphreys is coming in to teach you a lesson. Just a little bit of information about John Humphreys. He's written a book on language called Lost for Words. As we are studying English language, it is entirely appropriate for us to be studying sections of this book.
What I would really hope to do is get them, and this they will already do if they've got good teachers, and I bet they have, but just get them to think a bit more about the way they speak, and ideally the way they write.
But some of his prospective pupils are going to be hard to convince.
In the first section of the book, I was quite appalled at the metaphor he used of the butterfly. That is what I would have done in Year 7. And he tried to be stylish, but no offence to Mr. Humphreys, I was not liking that metaphor at all. I was not impressed at all.
I think I have a bit of an idea of how people of that age, children of that age, regard the English language and the way it is taught to them, and what they think about old farts like me.
Us as a class could never win a conflict, like an argument against anyone of John Humphreys' dialect, because their dialect is seen as being more efficient.
Why do you want to win? Why can't you just agree? Yeah, why can't we all smile? Anybody else?
He asked the questions that everyone wants to know, and it puts the MPs in difficult positions. That's why certain MPs don't want to be interviewed by him.
So how are you feeling about the prospect of meeting somebody like that?
At the moment, I think he's quite cool.
I hope that I will survive the experience. I'm not absolutely convinced that I will. I'm terrified. I've never done anything like this in my life before. I've done sort of training things. You know, in the old days I used to do ghastly media training courses and all that. This is different. My golly, is it different.
I've never done that in my whole life.
Yeah, Year Go on too.
Year 10, yeah, year 10. No, we will. Yeah.
Oh, so you're
Used to be called fifth form when I was in school.
So what lesson is okay. So you're teaching English?
Yeah.
What lesson is this going to be?
Well, because of that.
Oh, yeah. You read the book?
Phil, am I mad to be doing this?
No, brave.
Just slightly insane, just a little bit. Now look, you are one of the best teachers in the country. I have never done anything like this in my whole life before. And I'm also slightly nervous. Indeed, I'm terrified. They'll be able to detect that, won't they?
No, I think what we're dealing with is a situation where people assume that children will misbehave given the chance to misbehave, and that you won't project the appropriate sternness. But in fact, if you're talking about an issue that they're fascinated with, which is language...
And they are fascinated by it, are they?
Absolutely. Then you can make the assumption that despite the fact you may be asked some quite tricky questions, that they'll certainly be involved in a dialogue with you.
Do you have in your mind some idea of how much time you're going to be talking and how much time you're going to be listening to them or engaging in a conversation with them? I mean, how much actual, in the old-fashioned sense of the word, teaching are you going to be doing? Standing up there and saying...
A combination between Miss Smith and Miss Smythe. In that the way of doing it is you start, it goes back to them. And actually, that's one of the more difficult things. It's a transition, in that you may speak, and that's absolutely fine. Then you throw it over to them, and then they may get a little bit enthusiastic, and to the point of being passionate. And a very good teacher will be able to calm that down instantly, and then move straight on. So it really is a case of you go first, they get their turn, you go first.
I can disagree with them.
Utterly, yes.
Yes, yeah.
And then ask what they think of your point.
Right. Now, I have to tell you something, and you will be appalled at this as a professional teacher. I have done literally no preparation for this at all.
I have a lesson plan. as I say in our profession.
Okay.
Fail to plan.
Well, that is a bit of a relief, yeah.
In truth, it's a very, very sketchy little skeleton.
Right.
And I think what you should do is to give yourself permission to go off of it at any point.
I'd be incapable of sitting to it.
In that, if the discussion becomes fascinating on a subject maybe unrelated to what we first started on, that, like, you may find that there's accidental learning.
We've got a few minutes, haven't we, before I actually have to do it. So I will look at this, and then we'll give it a go. And you'll sit in.
Yeah, I shall be observing you from the other room.
From the other room, so you won't actually be sitting there.
No, you are dropped in and you're expected to swim.
I see.
Good luck.
No, don't say good luck. That makes it sound as if I need it. Which I do. They'll be out there now. Would you normally be sitting in here when they come in, or how would you do that?
No, I would generally speak, and I'd greet them at the door.
Like a vicar at the
like
parish
a
church,
vicar, with a smile, not a handshake.
Right.
And I'd see them to their seats and just check on jewellery, etc. That they're...
You mean if they're wearing this?
They're not wearing wildly extravagant jewels. That's it. Good luck.
Deep breath. Right. Is there anybody out there? Oh, well, that was easy. There's nobody there, so...
While John waits impatiently for his class, Phil prepares to watch his performance on a specially set-up monitor.
Hello? Anybody there? Hello?
Right, sir.
Hiya. Hello. Hello.
I think you were singing.
Hello. Is that it? Is that everybody? Right. Nice to see you all. My name's John Humphreys. I am not, as you will know, a teacher.
He's only got half of the class there.
I've been in a classroom like this for 40-odd years.
Stop. Should I?
How many of you speak a second language?
Sorry, we've only got half a class here.
Oh.
So it's...
Oh.
Yeah, as much as it's a great start,
We're missing a significant proportion of them, so...
John must start all over again.
Hi. Hi. Hi.
His confidence is absolutely shattered now in that he's built up the adrenaline to really go for it, and now that initial adrenaline rush has collapsed.
Right, well, good to see you all. I'm John Humphreys, and I'm not a teacher, as you're about to find out, I suspect. And you've all got an enormous advantage over me because you're used to being in a classroom and I'm not. I do different things with my life. I spend most of it, at least my professional life, mostly interviewing politicians, working for the BBC. In other words, wasting my time. You may or may not.
OK, the humour's good, but it's not connected. TT, for instance, appears confused.
Politician that I speak. Hang on, more people. Late. Come in, come in. I'm not going to do that all again for your benefit, so you'll have missed that little bit. Let me just ask again, now that everybody's here, how many of you in this room speak a second language? OK. Let me just tell you that everybody in this room speaks two languages, at least two languages. Maybe you don't speak another foreign language, foreign to an English person, that is, a British person fluently, but you all speak different languages. I do. I speak different languages. I'm speaking a different language now because I'm here in a classroom with you and there's a great big television camera pointing at me. If I go to the pub tonight and have a few beers with a few friends, I will speak a different kind of language again.
John's using analogies to get his point across, but this one is unlikely to prove terribly helpful.
Strangely, again, because you've got a lot of Islamic people in the class, drinking stories, they just don't work.
I mean, how many of you use swear words? Yeah, well, you can be honest. Now, look, some people are being honest. Only that? Come on, I bet all of you have... No? All right. All right.
So he's tapped into something that they can connect with, and suddenly the vibe in the room's better.
People like Tony Blair, because he's
just as quickly as he gets the vibe, Mr. Humphreys loses it.
Let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I left school at your age. You're mostly 15 and 16, yeah? I left school at 15. In those days, that was fairly common. I wanted to be a reporter. That was all I ever wanted to be. I'm not quite sure why. I think it's probably because the only stuff I read when I was a tiny kid, sort of 4 or 5-year-old after the war, the Second World War, was Superman comics. And Superman
this is all just flying way, way above their heads.
And I was determined to leave school at 15. I went to a reasonably good grammar school. As everybody in those days, if you passed the 11 plus, you went to grammar school. If you didn't, you went to secondary modern. I went to grammar school.
There is no learning as such coming together in this class.
And I had absolutely no qualifications. I had less education than almost all of you in this room will get.
Right, I'm now going to start filling in a lesson observation form. Demonstrates secure knowledge of concepts and skills of the subject. It's secure. Communicates his knowledge effectively and engages interest. I'm afraid not.
But John is attempting to change that.
A great job. Anybody here want to be a journalist or is thinking vaguely about being a journalist, doing something like that?